Hey everybody, Professor Reed here. I hope everybody's doing well. I want to make this quick video, especially for my 200 level classes. As I said, I'm an adjunct at multiple schools, proudly so, and want to make this video sort of highlights the writing the abstract process. And in my 200 level classes, and I'm also a tutor, so I see a lot of the abstracts coming through for APA papers. APA formatting has a very specific way of handling that. I would refer back to the APA video I made for general APA questions, but also in the future, I'm going to try to make some that are real specific for the different types of abstracts you could write. Obviously, a scientific abstract would be a different focus than a social science abstract, but what I want to do is just make a quick, brief video. Just going to go over the main points of the abstract, but think of it as a summary for your work. Typically, if you go onto like a database or a Google Scholar, you're going to see a short, sort of elliptical overview of the specific essay or article, and that's the abstract. And it's trying to get the reader acquainted with the actual content and the process you went through for gathering information. A lot of times too, for like a database, it's going to have some keyword searches as well. So it's something you can also add in to the abstract. Very good. So now here's just for an assignment that I have, but also for the folks writing it for, submission, or in general, if somebody stumbles upon, let's say the video goes viral online, somebody stumbles upon it. Let's hope that's the case. But as a sort of rule of thumb about, the abstract, 6 to 7 sentences, roughly 150 to 250 words max. Now, for my assignments in my classes, that's actually the max amount, but sometimes you'll see a little flexibility with it. And really, you want to write the abstract, double check it, triple check it. In the assignment tab, it's going to go as the first in the portfolio that we do, but it lets the readers know the general gist, or sort of the essence. I like that word, the essence of what you're trying to write about, and it gives detailed information about the argument in the paper that you're writing. Now, a lot of times, academic writing can have a tendency to be I guess the word is academic in terms of the writing style, and you're trying to give a summary and really to help the reader see the main points. And a lot of times, think back to your career as young scholars, as well as scholars in general, I should say. Gosh, you've probably been in the crunch time of a paper, maybe did a little bit of procrastination. Maybe you had to check out, like a Google Scholar. You're trying to find some information. A lot of times, you'll read the abstract as a way of sort of getting into some articles without having to read the whole thing. Now, obviously, as the paper develops, you have to annotate the sources. You maybe have to do something called a literature review. Maybe that's a little foreshadowing of the next overview we're going to do here on the channel. But abstract, think about it. You want to give the gist of information. What are the main points? We'll talk about the end, how you can break those up into little segments, but really try to keep it short. Don't try to overwhelm and impress the reader with, a lot of verbose type of language. Try to keep it short. You're trying to give a condensed version of what the paper is about. Now, here's the 4 C's of a solid abstract, something that you're going to see a lot of this on the internet. There's all sorts of different, bullet point type of summary of abstract, but make sure it's complete. You're talking about all the major parts of the projects. Now, in my 200 level class, we write on this, there's a fair amount of writing on discourse communities. For example, we have a paper on that, and we're looking at, various different aspects of that discourse community. And what you want to do is you want to summarize which each one of the sort of like mini essays that go into the portfolio, what they're about. Make sure it's concise. Watch out for a little bit of wordiness or unnecessary information. And what I also recommend is just maybe poking around on some of the databases, looking at the way some of their abstracts are organized. They're trying to be concise. Watch out for the jargon laden. Every discipline has its sort of like nature of the language they use, some of the more jargony type of terms. Watch out for those in the abstract. Now, obviously, as you get into the actual project and essay itself, it's gonna analyze elements of language usage as one of the discourse community areas we have to look at. But I would say watch out for that in the beginning phase of it. I don't really think of the abstract as selling the paper, but on some levels it sort of is. And make sure it's cohesive. Make sure that it smoothly goes in between the parts of the different papers. Now, I'm talking specifically about an assignment I have, but this is also applicable to a lot of the bigger, even up to a PhD level dissertation. You want to sort of walk through all the elements of the things you're looking at and maybe summarize some of your methodology, put that in there as well, but try to really hold back on that. You're just trying to sort of whet the palate of the reader. Okay, now for this section, I'll make it real specific to my 200 level courses, but I think it's an applicable idea across the board in sort of the sphere of the abstract sphere. Okay, so you want to make sure you give a context for it, and I think this is important from like anything that deals with like a historical type of background. So the discourse community paper that we work on, and that's basically takes us through the 200 level classes I teach across the board. You want to talk about what is the specific topic. Now, what we tried to do in that class, real specifically, was we tried to look at a discourse meeting, but also think about some of the other periphery areas that we could write papers on that were maybe cause and effect papers, maybe they were more general argumentative type of papers. And we wanted to make sure we had the source material that could back up those types of papers. So I would say you want to give the context for the nature of the specific study that you're doing. What's the central question? What are you trying to look at? What's the problem you're trying to solve? Are you trying to understand more about the community, or are you trying to make a specific statement about it? And really, what you could do for my essays in my classes, you can look at like comprehensively. What are the 3 major essays trying to do? What do we already know about this subject? So maybe you can keep that in mind. You can talk a little bit about that. What are you sort of walking into? Or maybe what are some presuppositions? Oh my gosh, I love that big Latin-based word. What are some of the presuppositions about the specific research? What are some of the things that maybe the reader may have in the back of their mind? Or maybe what are some of the, some of the bits of information? Keep it sort of short though for the abstract, but what did you sort of walk into? And maybe even talk about your rationale, your goals for research, why this topic is worth examining. I think that's a good one for the discourse community. What were some of the methods that you looked at? And then how did it stack up to the literature in your field? Now, maybe that's something a little bit more for like a master level paper or maybe like a senior type of thesis. But another thing you could look at is sort of this research methodology or the literature review. And then what were your methods of research? Did you do something that was primarily based off of, trying to find articles and sort of build up the scholarly repertoire of information? Or were you trying to maybe think up an experiment or some sort of psychological type of setup? I just got done reading some papers of the weekend that were looking at sleep studies, and the student had set up a pretty good overview of like specifically looking at college students, and they mentioned that in the abstract. What were your findings? What were some of your results? You can put a little bit of that in there, and what's the significance or the implications of the findings or arguments? So you don't necessarily have to have all that in the abstract, but just some things to sort of think about. And really, that can sort of depend on the type of paper you're writing. So some things to think about. And lastly, what I did here is I found an example online that broke it down into different little digestible chunks for the abstract with introduction, the body paragraph, and then the conclusion. You can see here a little bit more scientific based than some of the classes I personally teach, but it talks about what's the background of diabetes, the body information, and the conclusion as well. So hopefully that little overview there helps you out a little bit. I know it's a short one, but I want to keep it under 10 minutes, and you know what? I made that goal. So please, any questions, email me. For the folks tutoring with me, if I send this to you, just take a look at it. And remember, like, we want to keep it short. We want to have the information, and we're trying to basically let the reader know what they can expect in the overall paper. Best of luck, and thank you very much.